Welcome to the deep dive. Think about the last job ad you saw. Doesn't matter if it's tech, finance, creative. We're sort of programmed, aren't we?
Programmed hell.
To look for the candidate with the most letters after their name, the advanced degree, the top certification, maybe decades at some big name firm. We just inherently trust that piece of paper.
And that automatic trust, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're digging into today. We've been looking at Beyond Professionals, assembling the ideal team. And it argues that this credentials first approach, it might actually hold teams back.
Right.
The whole argument really gets distilled in their leadership rule, #108. It says, we need more puzzle pieces, less professionals.
Okay, that sounds pretty radical, doesn't it? Especially for you listening, maybe navigating environments where, staff pedigree is seen as the ultimate quality mark. So our mission here is to unpack that, get past the initial shock, maybe, and see what the author suggests are the real measures of worth, things beyond just the diploma on the wall.
Exactly. Let's start with that conditioning you mentioned.
Yeah, we're just so used to this system, right? Where credentials, degrees, certificates, they feel like the ultimate yardstick for a professional's value.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's a shortcut, isn't it? It signals competence quickly, seems to lower the hiring risk.
It makes sense on the surface.
It's efficient, yeah, but the source argues that efficiency has a hidden cost.
Yeah.
And that cost is often, well, diversity of thought.
How so?
If you only rely on these standard academic or industry benchmarks, you're basically fishing in a pretty narrow pond. You get people who think alike, who've been trained alike. The assumption is, get 5 highly credentialed people together and boom, high-performing team. But Rule 108 suggests that often just leads to an echo chamber, less innovation maybe.
Okay, I get
Yeah.
the theory. But let's push back a bit here, practically speaking. What about fields like, say, medicine or engineering, accounting? There are actual legal requirements for certain credentials. You need a licensed engineer, right?
Absolutely, and that's a really critical distinction.
So how can the book say we need less professionals when the law demands them?
It's not saying we need incompetence or that we should ignore regulations.
Yeah.
Not at all. It's challenging the over-reliance on credentials beyond that necessary baseline.
Okay, explain that.
So take your example. You absolutely need a CPA, a certified public accountant, for certain audit tasks. That's non-negotiable.
Right.
But do you need the CPA with the absolute highest academic pedigree to run the entire finance department? Or do you maybe need someone who gets the company culture, has strategic vision, knows how to mentor a team?
Interesting.
The source argues that for those bigger strategic leadership roles, the focus needs to shift away from just the paper qualifications towards a more holistic view of fit.
So it's about separating the must-have skills for the job function itself from the desirable attributes for team chemistry and growth.
Exactly that.
Okay.
We tend to confuse individual brilliance, which credentials often point to, with collective competence. And that collective strength, that's all about fit.
This brings us to their main metaphor, doesn't it? The organization as a puzzle.
Yes. And it's simple, but really powerful when you think about it strategically.
What makes it so powerful?
Well, it instantly changes how you think about value, right?
Yeah.
A perfect standard square puzzle piece. It's useless if the hole you need to fill is, I don't know, jagged or rounded.
Yeah.
A puzzle needs different shapes, different edges, different colors representing different talents, perspectives to actually create the whole picture.
So if you just keep hiring the best square pieces based on credentials, you just get a pile of squares. They might all be great squares individually, but they don't lock together, no synergy.
That's precisely the failure of just standardizing team building. When leaders really focus on finding those unique puzzle pieces that fit the specific gap they have right now,
Then what happened?
then the combined result is, well, cohesive. It's powerful. The team genuinely becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Why? Because the interaction between those diverse talents creates something new, something individual skill alone can't achieve.
It lets the team tackle problems from multiple angles, I suppose.
Exactly. It shifts recruitment away from just, ticking boxes on a checklist.
To more of a design challenge, finding the right piece for the structure.
We got it. Precisely.
Okay, so if we're shifting away from easily checked credentials, what are the new metrics? What defines a valuable puzzle piece, according to this Rule 108? This feels like the hard part.
It is the challenge, yeah. The source is clear. The focus has to move towards more intangible qualities.
Like what?
It specifically talks about embodying a heart posture that prioritizes values, experience, and a willingness to grow.
Heart posture. Okay, that's abstract. You can't photocopy that and attach to a resume.
No, you definitely can't. But this is where we need to translate that abstract idea into something observable. Beyond Professionals suggests leaders need to train themselves and their recruiters to look for actual evidence.
Evidence of heart posture.
Well, take willingness to grow. It's not just saying, oh, I love learning. It's about behavioral patterns. Did the candidate seek out cross-functional projects? Did they actively ask for critical feedback? Can they give specific examples of a failure that they then turned into a learning opportunity, maybe acquiring a new skill outside of any formal course?
Okay, so looking for demonstrated behaviors, not just claims. What about experience? We're not saying experience doesn't matter, right?
Not at all. Experience is crucial.
But how do we weigh, say, non-traditional experience against a fancy degree?
The book argues for prioritizing relevant experience over purely formal experience.
Give me an example.
Okay, maybe a candidate managed complex logistics for 5 years in a high-pressure volunteer group that hands-on problem-solving experience, dealing with real stakes. It might be way more valuable for a current operations gap.
Than someone with an MBA who spent 3 years in a very structured entry-level corporate job?
Potentially, yes. It depends on the gap. It's about measuring the functional skill needed and the values demonstrated in action, not just the job title or the institution on the CV.
This really demands a big shift in leadership thinking, then. Stop hunting for the most impressive conventional resume.
Right.
And start looking for people who embody the necessary values, have diverse skills, and this seems key, have the passion and maybe the psychological makeup to drive this specific organization forward right now.
Yes, and think about the long-term payoff. If you hire for adaptability, for values alignment, your organization becomes inherently more resilient.
Better positioned to handle change.
Much better positioned to achieve our goals and succeed in an ever-evolving business landscape, as the source puts it. You're building something that can flex, not something brittle based on potentially outdated expertise.
Strategically, that makes a ton of sense. But let's get into the nitty-gritty, the mechanics, because this is where these big ideas can sometimes fall flat. I'm a busy hiring manager. Filtering for MBA required is fast, easy. How do I actually do Rule #108? Isn't moving away from objective credentials just going to make hiring way more subjective? Maybe even open the door to more bias?
That's a super important question and a valid concern. The source tackles this head-on by emphasizing the leader's role in sort of managing that subjectivity.
Oh.
The leader can't just write a generic job description anymore. They have to paint a full picture for the recruiter, a detailed picture of the specific business need right now, the exact shape of the hole in the puzzle.
So instead of just saying, need a mid-level project manager, what does that detailed instruction look like?
It means defining both the functional gap and the values gap. For instance, okay, our team is full of brilliant technical minds, but they really struggle communicating upwards. The gap is for someone who can translate complex data into clear stories.
That's the functional skill.
Right. And the D's who operates with, say, radical transparency and empathy, especially when delivering bad news. That's the values, the heart posture piece. That level of detail defines the required shape.
Okay, I see. And that forces the recruiter into a different kind of search.
A much deeper one. More challenging, maybe, but ultimately more valuable. They can't just screen for a PMP certificate anymore. They have to actively hunt for the very specific right pieces to make the team complete.
It changes the interview conversation too, I imagine.
Completely. It has to move from just, what did you achieve, to, okay, how did you achieve it? And why did you approach it that way?
Behavioral interviewing.
Exactly. The book advocates developing interview questions focused specifically on behaviors that map back to those required values. You probe for stories about conflict resolution, you try to measure resilience, you test for genuine curiosity.
So that structured approach is how you try to measure the intangibles more objectively.
Precisely. That structure, that rigor, is what helps mitigate the subjectivity risk. It links the idea of best fit directly to the defined organizational need and values, not just to the prestige we associate with certain credentials.
This deep dive into Rule #108, it really does flip the script on talent acquisition.
It does.
The big takeaway from Beyond Professionals, then, seems to be that success isn't just about stacking up those impressive paper qualifications, the trading cards, like we said. It's much more about unique contribution, core values, and how someone genuinely fits into the team you already have, making the whole stronger through deliberate diversity.
And fostering a shared commitment to growth, absolutely.
So this leaves you, our listener, with a pretty big question to chew on, building on what we've discussed.
Yes, if we accept that traditional professional worth degrees, certifications is easy to measure because it's tangible. Then what specific structured behavioral interview questions? What kinds of reference checks? What frameworks do organizations need to start building right now? Frameworks to accurately and fairly measure that intangible value a candidate's heart posture, their real willingness to learn and adapt.
Moving from easy metrics to meaningful metrics.
That's the next frontier in leadership, isn't it? That's the real design work.